Hi, everybody. Earl Flaherty here with the Cryptopolitan podcast, and we have another episode. And today's guest is Justin. Justin, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. It's great to be here today. It was a pleasure.
Fantastic. That's a really good microphone setup. You're coming in super loud and clear. Where are you calling in from today?
Based here in Amsterdam. I'm calling
Okay.
up from my studio at home at the moment, which I'm a bit of a homebody, but I think that
Oh,
comes with the
fantastic.
territory of being a researcher as well and doing this sort
Absolutely.
of work. Yeah.
So I'm calling from my basement, but you can't tell because of the green screen. So there we go. Fantastic, fantastic. So why don't we just dive right in? Tell us about your project.
Sure. So I do a lot of different things in crypto. I mean, I've been into crypto, let's say full time as a researcher since 2013 now.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
hitting. I used to say more than a decade, but I guess it's closer to 12 years now, isn't it? So that's a long time being in this crypto game for. And I ended up setting up a company in cryptocurrency, and that company is Cyber Capital, and we do investment into cryptocurrency. So we have a portfolio of different projects that we invest into for our clients, so to speak. But I think
Okay.
as part of that, I think the more bigger, I think the role I play is very much as a researcher and as a thinker in cryptocurrency. I like to create some waves and to be controversial when I need to as well. I think
Okay.
I'm well known as a critic of a lot of the major cryptocurrencies as well, such as Ethereum and Bitcoin, and I think I'm well known for calling the alarm on a lot of these things.
Right. So what gives you that insight, that ability to be able to zig where other people zag?
Yeah, no, I think for me it was my I think we all like as crypto people, we all come into crypto usually with some other background. I think that's changing a little bit now as we have a younger generation comes up that's literally born into it, right? But I think
Hmm.
for a lot of us, we come into it with some prior background that we're leaning into. And for me, that was actually the humanities. So for me, that was political philosophy and history and critical thinking. I think was very
Okay.
important for me. So I think that just
So
allows me to.
so instead of being like the technical traders, you're more of a fundamental type, right?
That's right. That's right. So my fund and what I do as well is a long-term investment into value, into the fundamentals. So I spend a lot of my time really trying to understand some of the bigger questions in cryptocurrency, you could say.
Okay, fantastic. So what are some of the fundamental insights that you've been kind of playing on lately as kind of a direction for the fund and for your customers? Like what are the trends you're seeing in the market that maybe you called a while back that are coming into fruition now, going, hey, you know what? We called this back then and we saw this. And the reason we saw this was because of this fundamental piece. And now the fundamentals come into fruition. And you're like, hey, look, this is the direction. Yeah. What do you think?
No, no, certainly. I think maybe one area that I've been very consistent in is scalability. I actually think that
Okay.
scalability, layer one scalability, but in particular, is very important. Very important, actually. I think it's tantamount to any sort of competitive success, but also to actually achieving a lot of the vision, a lot of the cypherpunk values. I think that
Hmm.
initially at least came along with this movement. I think if you don't scale your system, then you can't actually offer those benefits to the masses. And it's all just a exercise in futility, as far as I'm concerned. So that's why when BTC pivoted away from on-chain scaling in 2015 and 16, I was very much against that. I very much spoke out against that movement, and I very much predicted that it would lose its lead in terms of revenue, in terms of usage, in terms of fees. And this is
Hmm.
all, I mean, today, this is just an assumption. People will tell you, oh, no, but Bitcoin's not meant to do that and it wasn't built to do that. Well, first of all, that's not true. And second of all, that's just because the goalposts have been moved so far today, right?
Right.
And
Well, it's
I
it's,
think,
it's like the engine is moving at a fast pace, right?
what do you mean by that? The engine?
Like you said, the goalposts move, right? Well, originally it was made for this, and then it was made for that, and it was made for this. Oh, well, can we add this on, and can we stick stuff on it? Like it's like just software, right? Eventually, you patch stuff over and over and over again, and
Well,
patch falls.
Bitcoin is the opposite, really, if you think about it, because Bitcoin was meant to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash, a payment system, and a store of value, and this type of digital gold, right? And instead of adding features, they took away features, right? Like Bitcoin was meant to scale, and that feature was taken away. Bitcoin was meant to be a payment network, and that feature was taken away. So it's not additive at all. If the process was additive, I wouldn't have so much of an issue with it. And the same thing actually ended up happening to Ethereum, where
Right.
Ethereum ended up pivoting away from layer one scaling and towards this kind of layer two paradigm, right? And I became, I was a Bitcoin supporter, then I became a critic. I was an Ethereum supporter, and then I became a critic because they changed, because
Right.
Ethereum changed, because Bitcoin changed, and they didn't stick to their original promises and their original goals. And I think as part of that, when Bitcoin did that, it lost the lead to the Ethereum. And when
Hmm.
Ethereum did that, it lost the lead to Solana. And that's takes us to where we are today. And this is why I've been predicting, after praising Ethereum for these years, I've been predicting that Ethereum is no longer competitive. I'm saying that Ethereum is dead, right? And I've been very vocal about like my support of Solana, saying, hey, this is a chain that scales, that does have this zeitgeist going for it now,
Yes.
where Ethereum and Bitcoin just don't. I mean, they're dinosaurs. They are literal technological dead ends. We can't build a DeFi ecosystem over Ethereum like on the layer one. It's simply not possible, and the
Hmm.
developers are not working towards those goals. And I think everyone knows by now that's also the case in Bitcoin. But in
Yeah.
Bitcoin's case, they fall back on this store of value, where the
Correct. Yeah.
money argument. But in reality, Bitcoin is the worst money. It's the worst store of value. It's insecure. They're going to have to increase the inflation rate in 8 to 12 years. It doesn't have any foundation in utility, which is what you want for a store of value. Like a store of value, right? A purely speculative store of value is a terrible store of value. It's a
Mhm.
circular argument. You want
Right.
some sort of foundation in utility. That's why today in the financial world, in the legacy world, so to speak, the majority of value is in productive assets, not purely speculative assets. I think
Yes.
Bitcoin has really miss the whole raison d'etre of why it was created in the first place, and miss that they're on this train that's going off a cliff, basically.
Right. Well, everything is built upon the foundation, and the foundation, doesn't scale like you're saying, right? It's not going to do well as the things gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Like if you look at let's use a simple analogy, right? So, because we can get into the weeds for sure, but I also want to be cater to the simpler listeners who are just getting into crypto, right? If you look at the architecture of stuff, right? I'll make fun of let's go just architecture for human body, right? If you look at on the West, right? They really push on the chest and the biceps, and a guy looking strong looks like this, right? And the problem with this is the teeters, right? Is that the foundation isn't very strong, right? So when you look at the East, what do they consider strong? Sumo wrestler. What does a sumo wrestler look like? Like this, right? It's a much stronger foundational base. And so what your argument is, it's really simple. If the base is weak, everything is going to be weak, what you build on it. If the base is strong, everything is going to be strong, what you build on it. So the whole layer one scalability argument is, hey man, make sure that what you're standing on isn't going to fall off.
Yeah, and I appreciate you reminding me that for the sake of your audience, to maybe create some better analogies here for people to understand what's going on. But yeah,
Mm,
the base layer, the layer one, that is indeed the foundation that everything's
yes,
built on top of. And this idea that, say, Bitcoiners or Ethereum might try to sell you is, hey, we can build things on top of that layer one. We can build things on top of the blockchain, and that is
yes,
just as good as actually building on it. That's a lie. It's not as
yes.
good as actually building on it. And I
Agreed.
think the successful blockchains of the future are going to be blockchains we can build on. It's
Agreed.
really simple if you come down to it. And what we're seeing in Ethereum, especially with layer twos, it's become parasitic and it's become extractive, where
Hmm.
basically these layer twos, they're Ethereum competitors in disguise, stealing users and fees away from
Right.
Ethereum. And that's where Solana, because it was able to scale that base layer, that bottom foundation, as you put it very well,
Mm,
an entire ecosystem is now being built around it that is now exceeding most of the metrics that
right.
Ethereum once held high, basically. And that's the new era that we're living in crypto. It's important to understand, and coming from someone that's been in crypto for 12 years, and,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people have, it's their downfall, to kind of go down with the ship, and to kind of stick with one way of thinking. But I think what I'm known for is changing my mind. And what I'm known for is reassessing my view on particular crypto assets and at the same time remaining consistent in terms of what we're building here and like what is cryptocurrency actually for? Like why does it actually matter? What makes it actually valuable? And what makes it valuable is being able to use it. That's the part that's actually empowering.
Right.
That's the beautiful thing about what I do because I combine like both the real cypherpunk values in terms of like okay what can we build and that's then combined with what is also competitive. Those two things are one and the same in crypto, which is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Well, I'm actually going to counter that, right? So, I don't think you changed your mind, right? Because originally you bet on them because they were of this nature, right? And then when they changed the nature, it wasn't you that changed your mind, it was them that changed their mind, right?
Yes.
So, because you're still sticking to the fundamentals. The fundamentals are does the damn thing scale or not, right? And when it
Yeah.
stops the ability to be able to scale, it's no longer the same thing. So I don't think you changed your mind. I think you're just sticking to your guns.
No, you're right, and I really appreciate that. I think there is. It depends on how you look at it. I changed my mind about BTC and Ethereum. I didn't change my mind about blockchains needing to be able to scale. So it's all about
Right.
the framing. But I think I
Exactly.
think the more important thing is, yeah, no, I remain consistent, and
Yeah.
of course I'm updating my thesis constantly. The technology keeps evolving at a rapid pace. The political environment keeps changing. Like anything,
Mhm.
like change is the only constant, right? But there
Right.
are certain things that I think are just human nature, our universal laws in the universe. One of those is entropy, and another one of those is, something that is usable is valuable, something that is not usable, I don't think
Right.
is particularly valuable. And the truth is, Bitcoin is not usable. It's this illusion where people are playing pretend. Like they can pretend that Bitcoin works as long as no one uses it. Soon as a
Right.
significant part, as soon as a significant amount of people start using Bitcoin, it stops functioning. Like it
Well,
really stops
isn't that
functioning.
the argument? People are like, oh, well, transactions per second and this and that. And if we add a layer two and da 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 and do the hokey pokey, but then it's everything's going to break, right? Like you said, the foundational elements are super duper important, right? And so
Yeah.
they keep saying the early bird gets the worm. So the early ones are the Bitcoin and Ethereum. But there's a whole nother theory around, the second mouse gets the cheese, right? Because sometimes when you think about it that way, right? When the other people see the other like the first the forefront fall over because of the mistake they made, you try to make better mistakes tomorrow, right? You don't try to repeat the same mistake over and over and over again. So
And it's really, very rarely in technology that it's the first iteration of something will be like the one.
mhm.
Usually we need to go through a few iterations. We need to learn. We need to evolve our thinking. I mean, keep in mind, this is all just a giant social experiment as well.
Yes,
Like, we don't actually know, that it works until the social experiment is run its course. I mean,
correct.
the thing is, like, from that perspective, United States is still an ongoing social experiment, right?
Absolutely.
If you think about it. And
Absolutely.
crypto is the same. And we need to run these things, in reality. And then empirically, we need to learn from it. And one of the things I've learned from it is, yeah, I think Bitcoin and Ethereum has failed. These are experiments that have, well, I mean, in a way, an experiment never fails, but it fails in the sense that it succeeds in the sense that we learn from it, but it fails in the
Yes,
sense that Bitcoin and Ethereum are not the two blockchains that are going to bring us into the future. And I
right.
might support Solana today, but in 5 years from now, who knows? It might be another blockchain. And maybe that's not the narrative you want to hear, because maybe that's not the narrative that makes you rich quick and makes you really certain of the future. But, sometimes reality is just more complex.
But that's the nature of the fundamental traders, right? We're not the type who are looking for scalp. We're not the type who are looking for intraday trade. We're not looking for, it's a long-term play, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at the more successful people within the world from like a long-term standing, it's not impressive to me that you make, millions of dollars overnight. It's because everybody can make millions of dollars, right? It's the how much you get to keep, right? There's a combination of old and wealthy that is very rare, right? Because, people will eventually make the mistake and play their hand the
Well,
wrong way, and then there you go. But old and wealthy is rare. So that's why I appreciate your fundamental stance of, hey, this is this is the logic I stand behind.
It's maybe worth to explain that a little bit more for your audience, considering I understand you have a bit more of a retail audience here as well. So it's maybe worth explaining the difference because I think it's lost on a lot of people. They don't necessarily understand what's the difference between a trader, what's the difference between an investor, a momentum trader, a value investor, a
Yes.
like there's all these different types of ways to make money in crypto, right? And they're completely what I at least want people to walk away from is to understand they are completely different from each other. Like a
Yes.
trader is a completely different person compared to a value investor, like their personality, their skill
Almost
set.
opposite.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too many people get into crypto and think, hey, I'm gonna become a trader or something, and they don't
It's
really
magic
think
internet
about,
money, right? We just clap, clap, and bow, and money comes out of the internet, right? That's how it
yeah,
works. So,
yeah, if you like the idea of staying up 24/7 and trading day trading coins and understanding technical analysis and getting a real feel for things and that's your quick and fast life, maybe, and you have a strong mathematical background, and maybe a technical analysis or quantitative or computer science coding background, maybe you would have the right personality type to be a trader, right? But in my case, like I'm an investor because I'm more of the thinker, right? I read white papers, I engage in a lot of the big debates, and I think about these big ideas, and I invest for the long term. So when I
yes,
make an investment, I make an investment with the understanding that I could still be invested in this thing in 20 years from now, because I'm
right.
investing in the future. Like I'm really investing in like what really makes sense. And like, a lot of our clients, they don't want us to invest in the latest, quickest meme coin or NFT, which
Right.
which I mostly consider like gambling, right? That's not even
Yes.
trading. That's mostly gambling for the most part, unless you're very sophisticated. Um, because what they want is they want us not to invest in BS because
Yeah.
there's so much BS in crypto. Like I would say like it's 99% BS. And
Mhm.
fundamental analysis is the skill set that allows you to figure out which blockchains are BS and which blockchains are not, basically. So you
Correct.
can, and that's the discipline. And as part of that, it's a holistic discipline. As part of that, you learn about computer science, economics,
Mm.
incentive design, game theory. You have to combine, political philosophy. You have to combine all of these different disciplines together in order to get a holistic view. Because if you just say analyze the economics of a blockchain, you're maybe missing the political balance of power.
Right.
Or
And then
if
that shifts the valuation by a whole lot. So I'm weird.
exactly.
I'm actually a bit of both. I start with fundamentals, so I know which ones to go after, and then I use technical to pull the trades in between, right? So
That's
bit
not
of both.
bad actually. That's actually we do something similar over at Cyber Capital in that we have a research team. So we have a team of researchers that are full-time researching. We have strategy meetings. We decide on asset selection and selling and buying and kind of the big ideas of it. But then we pass it on to another team who's
Mhm.
our trading team, and
Right.
they have like a 2 month window in which to do the timing, basically.
Right.
That's kind of
That's a good
combining the best
one-two
of both
punch
worlds.
combo. I've always enjoyed that. So
Yeah,
the
exactly. And there's something to be said. If you're just a trader, there's something to be said to adding a little bit of fundamentals to what you're
yes.
doing because that avoids you from getting rug pulled. It avoids you from getting scammed. Like, Cyber Capital's never invested in a scam, right? That's because
Yeah.
we're good at spotting them. We're very good at spotting them. That's part of what we do. That's part of sifting through all the BS to find the gems. And then you really, really find the gems. And I think as part of that, I think part of, and maybe going a little bit back to the scalability discussion of before, people
Mhm.
need to understand what was known as the blockchain trilemma, and this is what a lot of people talk about. This blockchain trilemma. The
Yes.
blockchain trilemma has been solved, more or less. Effectively speaking, it has been solved. Right? Like where we are today is we have blockchains that are capable of 10,000 TPS, 100,000 TPS, maybe even theoretically a million TPS. Like
Mhm.
Visa does about 5,000 at peak. Okay,
Yes.
for reference. So like we've made it. Like we've made it, and we can scale systems while preserving decentralization. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because they are cynical or they are bought or I don't know what, but or they are ignorant and it's leading us towards a worse path. It's underestimating actually what cryptocurrency really is capable of today. Because cryptocurrency today is fast, cheap, easy, and extremely secure. And anything less than that, I think, is not good enough. which is why I've really turned my back to Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I will to anything else that, and as I have to many other cryptocurrencies that don't meet these basic criteria, because crypto deserves better, and we deserve better, as a movement.
Wholeheartedly agree. Wholeheartedly agree. Right. I mean, that's the point of the tech. Like, if it doesn't fulfill the base promise of what the tech was supposed to do, is it still useful? Right. So that's when you, like you said, you turn your back or you discard it or you move on to the new tech. Right. Like, I mean,
Exactly.
if we didn't do this, right, um, this wouldn't exist. You and I wouldn't be talking on Zoom right now, right? So like let's just talk about like just it's not necessarily just the tech, but TV killed radio, right? They're like, oh yeah, no, that's just the fad. It's not it's gonna go away. And then Netflix killed TV, right? And the next thing and the next thing and the next iteration, as it changes, right? If you don't adapt, you die, right? This is like what natural selection and survival of the fittest type stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't jump to the next one, right? Otherwise, we'd all still be using trains, right? Like the truck killed the train because the truck can go wherever the hell the truck wants, right? The train is stuck. So yeah, as
Depends on the
things
country's infrastructure, that last one,
depends
but
on the
yes.
country's infrastructure, absolutely, yeah. But again, it goes back to, did you build it right, right?
Yeah.
Like
No,
so,
exactly. Did you build it right? Yeah, no,
well,
that's
I'll
exactly it.
give you a really simple example. Vancouver is one of the worst built cities in the world. I live in Vancouver, right? And because of that, our main downtown core doesn't have the highway running through it, right? Whereas every other major city in the world has the highway running through the downtown core. So because we don't have that, our infrastructure is weird, and because that's weird, our GPS system fails, right? So it gives you all these roundabout ways to get to places because it thinks it wants you to go to the highway. Because logically
Hmm.
speaking, you go to the highway and then you go to the off road and then you hit the branch and then your destination is there.
A little bit like using bridges in a layer two ecosystem, right?
Words out of my mouth. Beautiful. So you read my mind. I'm like, yeah. So here's the
Yeah,
bridge
yeah,
with the layer two, right? And oh well,
yeah,
now the bridge has a toll on it. Congratulations,
yeah,
right? And why are the gas fees so high? And so people start to wonder about the architecture behind it all. So fascinating.
yeah.
Very
And
cool.
and that's the thing, like I think the bottom line is if you can offer the cheapest, fastest, most secure, and most decentralized block space,
Hmm.
you win. And I think all layer ones, all blockchains, let's say, or
Yes.
cryptocurrencies in this base layer sense, they're all competing over that same
But
space. I
that
think I
should
think
be their function. Like that's you have one job.
I know, but that you talk to Bitcoiners and Ethereans, they'll tell you something else now. Like that narrative is evolved, and it's going to infect more of the crypto space as well, and that's something we need to fight. We need to fight that because it's a BS narrative, as far as I'm concerned, and it benefits VCs, it benefits private companies, it doesn't benefit crypto, it doesn't benefit the
Right.
people.
The
You
mission,
know
vision, value underneath the entire thing.
exactly,
Right. Because the
exactly.
moment that shifts,
Yeah.
now we're privatization, centralization. Whose pockets are we lining, right?
Exactly. And that's how paradoxically, ironically, even something like Solana, which has a reputation for being shady and centralized, I can
Mm,
acknowledge that. But
yes.
ironically and paradoxically, it's Solana that's saving the cypherpunk dream right now.
Right.
You know, I would not have guessed that if you asked me 2 years ago.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Well, I really enjoyed this part of the talk. Let's move on to part two, where we talk
sure.
about you, the person behind this. So it's a fascinating way you think. It's a fascinating way you run the company. Um, Tell us, what do you do when you're not deep in thought? What do you do when you're not in front of the computer? Like, what are your hobbies? What are your interests? What drives kind of this need to forever do the research and the endless hunger and endless curiosity? What do you do for
No,
fun?
thank you. I think you could say I'm what you call a crypto native. So I'm very much motivated by crypto and like the kind of political side of that as well. So I think a lot of that what drives me there is kind of the passion of
Hmm.
cryptocurrency because I have that political background and that kind of gives me an
Well,
ideological reason also to support
we can
cryptocurrency.
definitely hear it in the way you talk. So yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a beautiful thing. It's great when you can have that in life because then it just gives life so much more color and meaning, in terms of what we
Hmm.
do. And I think as part of that, like I said, I kind of apply a lot of my background in political philosophy and history and political thinking, the humanities, really trying to apply that way of thinking to crypto. I think when I first got involved, 2013, 14, I was very much a lurker. You know, I was like in the
Mm.
background because I didn't really feel I could contribute much. But then the block size debates happened on Bitcoin, and then it because before I was like, oh, I can't really contribute these discussions because I'm not a computer scientist, right? And I don't want to just be noise for the purpose of being noise. Like I actually want to
Mhm.
give back here. But then when the discussion started happening and I started seeing these computer scientists and engineers debate what was essentially like who decides,
Right.
which is not at all part of the discipline of computer science or engineering. That's part of
Right.
the discipline of political philosophy. So I was like, oh
Humanities. Yeah. Yeah.
wait, I know this. I can contribute to this.
Help.
So
Yeah.
that's when I started getting active. So that's when I really got involved in the block size debates. I got involved with Bitcoin Classic, Bitcoin Unlimited. These were a lot of the original client implementations. I even helped write the constitution for Bitcoin Unlimited back in
Mm.
the day. Um, but basically, that was a type of civil war that happened, and I was very involved in that and really fighting for Bitcoin, fighting for Satoshi's original vision, right? And then
Mhm.
when our side, quote unquote, lost the war, then I moved on, right? I moved on to other blockchains. And I think
Right.
that's very
Makes
much
sense.
where I am today. And I think that that process of iteration is continuing. It's part of why a lot of my focus is now on governance, because I think the problem with Bitcoin, if you really think about it, it's not really a tech problem or a scalability problem. It's a governance problem
Yes.
because we have the tech. The problem was that they made a different decision. And like I'm don't have the space to go deep into it now, but I think control is actually very centralized in something like Bitcoin around the core
Yes.
developers in particular. And that runs very contrary to the kind of messaging they put out there. It's they claim to be this decentralized meritocracy, but nothing could be further from the truth. That narrative is really there just to shield the shadow
Mhm.
rulers from responsibility and checks and balances, right? So that's why I'm
Good.
an advocate of decentralized governance today. And that's something I've been really pushing for. That stakeholder governance is the way we get out of these holes. I really do believe if Ethereum stakeholders could have voted on Ethereum's future, it wouldn't be in the terrible position it is now. But instead, we
Right.
have some scientist in an ivory tower deciding from up high what's better for everyone. And some of these guys have never run a business before in their lives. You know, they don't know what
Well,
it
it's the
really
professor
takes.
teaching business who's never run a business, right? It's the same kind of situation, right? It's like, I mean, yeah,
Exactly.
they know the theoretics, they know the structure around it,
Yeah,
but how does the quote go? Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face, Mike Tyson. So
exactly.
they've never been
Yeah.
punched in the face, so they don't know what, the real life hasn't really bit back yet.
Yeah.
So,
And it is that cliche dynamic of the researcher not creating a competitive product basically. And I think you
mhm.
see that happening in Ethereum very much. I think someone like Justin Drake, I believe he's sincere, for
Mhm.
example. That's I would say he's not corrupt, he's just wrong.
Right, right, okay,
But I think a lot of people in that ecosystem are just corrupt. I mean, oh,
yeah,
if you look at the amount of money, like there's billions of dollars in layer two equity and tokens, right?
yes,
There's nowhere near that much money for L1 development. So like money talks, follow the money, Q Bono. I think that's important to take into account. You asked me, I'll maybe share a little bit more about myself since that was actually the question.
yeah,
Yeah, so some of the things that I do, I train every day. I like to exercise. That keeps me sharp.
fantastic.
That keeps me happy as well. I think so. I highly recommend for people out there to stay fit, to train every day, especially if you're into investment and trading. That's one of the best things you can do for your mind as well. Just to have clarity. So that's something I love to do. I also make music, so I love to make music. So as part of that, you could say kind of a combination of with crypto is my intellectual side, music is my kind of emotional, more expressive side, and then
Creative, yeah,
yeah, and then martial arts and exercise is like that's like more my physical side, and kind of as part
fantastic.
of that, that creates a whole human being. I think that's important to
What
have.
what kind of martial art? I'm curious.
A mix of stuff. I have my foundation in Thai boxing actually, but I've got like MMA background and
Oh,
a little
fantastic.
bit of Wing Chun, a little bit of Aikido, a bunch of boxing, just
That's
bits and
hilarious.
pieces.
That we're of this we're cut from the same cloth here. Just here. Like I don't always turn off my background, but check this out. Behind me,
Ha ha
this is
ha!
the actual
Nice.
room, and behind me,
Oh.
so this is
Ooh.
we teach sword, stick, knife, and that sort of thing. So this is the kind of fun stuff that I do too. So I love it.
Cool, cool, cool.
I
Well,
find
actually,
that. Oh, go ahead.
just out of the camera shot here.
Yeah.
Oh no, I moved the camera, but that's a boxing bag.
Oh, the
Sorry,
boxing
that
bag.
was terrible. Yeah, yeah, I had a boxing bag. That was terrible though. Move my camera.
So yeah,
Sorry.
I find that people who have um the architecture of all these pieces together are kind of, the more rounded people, right? When if you're not just a one-dimensional creature where all you do is the same thing all day, every day, right? I mean, Einstein himself said that, he goes on walks to clear his head. And they started, I don't know if you saw the articles on this stuff, but they started showing people's brain scans while they were walking and how much blood went to the brain afterwards. And you get way more strong, good ideas, etc., just going for a walk, just moving your body. So I'll wholeheartedly agree. I love the fact that you do all of these activities as well as deep thinking, because I think they really go in together and in sync.
Yeah, they create like a whole human being. I mean, like I'm in the business of ideas, of insight. And an insight is a funny thing. Like it can only be one sentence is the insight. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's not really the case of that I just have to crunch down for days and days and just in the books and calculating and oh, eureka, I have my moment. No, it's
right.
it's more like I need to create a environment where I can be inspired, where I can have
Mhm.
flow state, where I can, I need to understand myself so that I can put myself in those positions that I'm in the shower one day and then I'm like, boom, insight, idea. That's the
That's literally
business
how
we're in
that's
crypto, right?
literally how it works. Like, a professional thinker needs to take care of his body as well, because that's part and parcel of it. So a
Uh,
lot that's fantastic.
uh,
That's really good insight into you as well.
no, thank you. I appreciate it. And it is a little anecdote here. Are you familiar with the story of Archimedes and the term eureka?
Yes.
You'll love this if you haven't heard the story.
Give her again. Like, it's
All
for
right.
this. This is for the audience.
It's only about 2,000 years old, so I'm slightly late on the news. So it's not exactly cutting edge, but we go
Yeah.
full circle sometimes. So there's the story of Archimedes, who was a famous mathematician in ancient Greece, and he was asked by the king, um, "I want you to figure out how to calculate the mass of an object." and
Hmm.
uh, and he spent weeks trying to figure out, months trying to figure out, just wrecking his brain. He was like losing sleep and not eating, and he was just trying to figure out, trying to figure out, trying to figure out. Then one of his friends came to him and he said to Archimedes, "You've been working on this so hard. I think you need to just go take a break." Okay.
Yeah.
And Archimedes was like, "Okay, fine, I'll go take a break." So he made himself a bath. And when he went to go lie in the bath, he saw the water level rise as he got into the bath, and then he shouted, "Eureka! Eureka! I have discovered it!" Because obviously the displacement of water is a way to measure mass, right?
Absolutely.
And then he ran down the street very famously, naked, screaming, "Eureka! Eureka! I've discovered it." So it's a funny, cute little story, but it goes back to this theme of like, to be healthy, to be well balanced is also to be the most productive and to be the most competitive in this world as well. And I think that's a good thing. And that's that happy medium where happiness and goodness and rightness can actually go one on one with success and prosperity. And that's
Absolutely.
a beautiful thing.
I once upon a time interviewed a billionaire and asked him the question, if you could do one thing that would increase your business, what would you do? He said two words: work out, right? Because that's the difference that it made. So fantastic. Well, let's round it out to question number three here. And question number three is, like, where are you most active? Like, in your company, in your groups, from like social media? Is it X? Is it Discord? Is it Telegram? Where can the communities kind of find your insight and hear you speak and hear your voice and all that sort of thing? What's your favorite platform? And
Mhm.
then give them a reason to connect with you on it, other than this fascinating conversation.
Sure, sure. No, I appreciate that. So X is probably the best place to follow me. That's where I'm most active. That's where I
Mhm.
post most of my content. So I try to post something every day. And a
Fantastic.
reason why I like that hook, by the way, a reason why you might want to follow is because I very often do critiques of various cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin and Ethereum. I've probably
Mm.
critiqued 50 plus cryptocurrencies by now, and I do very thorough analyses of economics and consensus and design and whether there's some admin key somewhere hidden away. And I warn people of scams a lot and that sort of thing, basically. So I think if you're interested in that, definitely follow me on X. I usually repost all of my content on X as well, including when this video comes out. Just type my name into YouTube. A bunch of videos will come up as well. I would say you can also check out my company. My company is called Cyber Capital, and the website is cyber.capital. And as we said, we invest in a large number of different cryptocurrency assets, and we do a lot of interesting research that we also publish there as well. So I think that
Fantastic.
covers most of it at least. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Justin, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. What a fascinating conversation. And I love the way you think. And I truly wish you luck and your group luck. And I think anybody who's interested should definitely reach out. Come, go check out his website. Go find him on X. I'm going to follow you now. So, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much
Awesome.
for being on the show. Any last parting words of wisdom other than Eureka?
Yeah, I would say I like to have some parting words. I would say, there's a lot of BS in crypto, but
Mhm.
like the stuff, the gems that you find are phenomenal and are going to profoundly change the world as we know it. And I think that's worth putting up with all of the BS. That's worth all of the gambling and the degeneracy. Like I know it can seem very far removed from the movement we originally started, but it
Mhm.
is running its course. And at the end of it all, we will have a better world. And that's worth putting our energy and time into.
Fantastic. Thanks again. I appreciate you
Thank
being
you
on the
so
show.
much. Bye bye.